Hey, welcome to Creative Block. We're your host, V.
And Sean. We interview people in creative industries about their life, work, and hobbies while we doodle jam.
We ask people on Twitter and Instagram and Patreon and there's another place where we ask for questions too.
A mysterious
Everywhere.
place.
A mysterious place. Discord if you're a patron. We ask people on all these different platforms if they had specific topics they wanted us to discuss, as well as some drawing prompts.
I just opened my window and yell outside and see if they have any questions. Today, we have with us Umaimah. Yay! Welcome to the show.
Hey everyone. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, guys.
Of course, it's a pleasure. This is so fun. So we've met through Discord.
Yep. Through, I would say, like the struggle Discord of like being an LA expat.
Yes.
Just everyone sharing their like stress.
Yeah. Oh, trauma bonding. That's
trauma
good.
bonding. Lovely.
It always works. Where's your, I guess I always wonder like how to ask that question in LA. It's like, is it okay? It's like, where you're from? Like, where's your primary home? Where are you? You know, what's the...
I think for me it's okay because it's so obvious from my accent that I'm not from here at this point. So I'm just like, it's okay.
We were talking about visas a lot, so we did have confirmation beforehand that you weren't from here.
Yeah, exactly. So it's okay. I love talking about where I'm from too, because it's always nice to kind of acknowledge my past. But I'm actually originally from Nigeria, specifically northern Nigeria, and it doesn't matter. But I love saying, I love specifying that I'm from northern Nigeria, just because there's like a very conservative culture there around girls just getting like education. So you can imagine a girl like trying to go into animation. It caused chaos in my family, definitely. but it happened, and I just think it's a big deal. So I do like to talk about that. So yeah, that's where I grew up with my family. I have like 6 sisters.
Wow. Yeah. That's really cool. So that's a great way to get into that next question. How did you get inspired to pursue animation?
There's like so many aspects to that. I think there's 2 parts of it. There's like the very girly aspect, which is, me watching Disney princess movies and like all the other shows about like cool girls, like Winx Club, Totally Spies. I was always obsessed with it because they had like pink accessories, especially Totally Spies. Oh my god, I'm like, I want everything that they have. So I was always mad that those things didn't exist in real life. And the other side of it is also my dad loved Tom and Jerry. So he used to like recruit me into watching it with him late at night. I'm supposed to be asleep, so my mom doesn't really know that we're up doing that. So so yeah, it was like watching both of those, watching just like girls doing cool things on TV and being girly while doing it, and also watching like Jerry terrorize Tom. And I got inspired. I was like, I want to do this. But honestly, at the time, I don't think I realized that people were doing this. I don't know what I thought animation was coming from. Like, did I think it was just like showing up in thin air?
I like the idea that you wished that you had like spy radar, but also you wished that you had like a giant mallet that you could hit somebody on the head with and they'd turn into a pancake.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, eventually when sorry, but
oh no, I was just gonna agree with you. I feel like when I was a child, I was the same. I was like, I just thought, I don't know, cartoons came out of a factory. There was a cartoon factory, and you just, boop, at the end of the conveyor belt, it's like a Tom and Jerry cartoon.
I know, exactly. I'm like, yeah, obviously humans aren't making these like magical moving drawings, but turns out they were, and I would be one of them eventually.
That's really cool. That's really, really cool.
Wait. Did you say that you're happy to be a cartoon character now, or happy to make cartoon characters now? Okay,
No,
okay.
make cartoon characters. I mean, basically, if you see the way I dress, I do look like a cartoon character, like wearing all pink with like hair buns.
You have the
sometimes,
mallet?
So, oh yeah, I do have the mallet.
Drop
How
a-
did you know?
Drop a piano on someone's head.
How did you know?
That's so funny. That's so funny. I feel like the mallet. Do you watch any anime by any chance?
Not as much lately, but I have seen some. I've tried.
It's really funny that the mallet in 80s anime was like a really big thing. It was like they would often like especially like female characters would just kind of when like there was like a male character that was being a little like too pervy or anything, like the female characters would like bring out the mallet and like smash them. I don't
Oh my god, that was a thing.
That was a very common gag.
Oh my god, I can't believe that. That's so awesome. I love it though.
It's very 80s. It's very like late 80s, early 90s for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it kind of disappeared. It's not really in it anymore. It's really funny. Did you study art in school when you were like in high school, or like did you take any art classes, extracurricular classes?
When I was in high school, definitely not. Like, there was an art class, but it was focused on art history. You know, the teacher was basically teaching us about like Neolithic, Paleolithic. I'm probably not saying them right because it's been so many years. Eras, kind of like cave art and all that, Greek, you know. So that was like what I got. And it was after I kind of spent a year in South Africa that I was like, okay, let's take this animation thing serious. And my school counselor was like, well, there's this school called SCAD. And literally I just went with like the first name she dropped on me because I was like, I just need to get out of here. So I'll take whatever you give me. And
the bar was low. You're just like anything. Oh, there's one person that knows how to draw, and I'll just go over their house every day and they'll teach me. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's a school for me. Oh, that's fine.
I'll take it. So yeah, I was like, okay, I'll take it. So you can imagine my surprise when like I came here, and after some few years in SCAD, when I mentioned SCAD, people are like, that is so cool. I'm like, yeah, so cool. I definitely thought of that when I was applying. Meanwhile, it was just luck. And I did feel really lucky to have gotten in because I felt like I was doubting myself, you know, about getting in. I was like, no way this is going to happen. But when that admission letter came in, I was so excited.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's like the only art classes I've taken.
Oh, really? So what did you have in your portfolio? That's really cool because I feel like SCAD is like a prestigious school that a lot of people apply to and don't get in.
Is it all just self-taught? You just were drawing on your own? Like,
yep, I was drawing on my own. I was like looking at what other people were doing. I would like stalk artists on Instagram, you know, the popular cool ones like Lois, and just be like, I'm gonna try to paint what they're painting. I never posted it, of course, because I didn't like, you're not supposed to do that, but I would like try to imitate their style just to kind of practice for myself. And what I did apply to SCAD with were like some really, now that I'm thinking about it, scary looking characters and also some like live looking characters. Kind of I remember this parrot was part of it. And yeah, I guess that was good enough, luckily enough for me. So I just went with that.
That's really cool. Did you kind of like did you stress out about doing your portfolio at all, or were you just kind of like, oh, I'll see what happens?
Oh, definitely. It did not help that like I was going online to look at people's portfolios. And I don't know if you guys know about that, the whole portfolio tour thingy like on YouTube where artists will kind of post the portfolio that they applied to schools with.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Oh yeah,
That's
it was
new.
a thing.
I feel like, yeah. In my generation, it was on Blogspot. We would post the portfolios there. I didn't know people did that on YouTube. That's crazy.
They were doing that on YouTube, but here's the problem. Their portfolios were all like so aesthetically pleasing and organized. So you can imagine what I was going through mentally, like seeing those. I was like, oh my God, the stress is real. But apparently it didn't matter. And I came to realize that it's social media, so we kind of try to make things aesthetically pleasing, to attract people. So yeah.
That's so crazy. And so did you feel like you had to, did you feel the pressure to match the aesthetically pleasing type of vibe, or did you just try to find the confidence in yourself to make something different?
I definitely did feel the pressure to make it aesthetically pleasing. I don't think I'll be lying to myself if I'm like, oh no, I was confident and I was just going with my heart. But I really wasn't. I mean, eventually I felt like I didn't have a choice about it, and I just kind of, I kept thinking of I have to meet this deadline. So I was like, we need to wrap this up, Umaimah. Yeah. There's no time to be crying about perfection right now. Just get it done. So that's what I did. Got it done. And yeah, worked out.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's strength in spirit.
Strength in the deadline and in anxiety. I think that it does powerful things for you. I mean, just holding a fire under your butt and saying I have to get it done. I can't focus on if it's good or bad. It'll take a lot of those fears away if your only fear is just getting it done.
Right? Yeah. I try so hard to be to not depend on that, because sometimes I do feel like it's so good at making me get things done, and I'm like, no, Umaimah, do not depend on the stress and the rush.
Just wait till the last minute all the time. It's the only way.
Right. Lessons. We never learned them.
You heard it here first, folks.
You heard it here first.
Oh my gosh. How was it like? What was it like being in SCAD? Was it in terms of what kind of classes did you take? What did you focus on?
It was really fun. I think for me, I felt like I was more excited to be at SCAD than a lot of people at SCAD, which honestly, I get it. Because I kind of came from a place where I wasn't attending. I didn't have all the schools. So for me, seeing that for the first time was oh my God, magic. And, other people definitely already had that. So I'm sure they didn't it wasn't that amazing to them. But I think I really enjoyed my time, and I kind of had a lot of fun making friends there. And also that was kind of my into really the industry as a whole. I kind of really started knowing the people that were in the industry from there. I started understanding what was going on in animation. I was just, reaching out in the dark before and just doodling as I go. But it became more serious for me when I started attending SCAD. And that was what I wanted anyways, I knew that I wasn't getting that back at home. And if I really wanted to kind of make it, I needed to be somewhere that would actually help me make it.
Yeah. Do you feel like you met more of your network through your teachers, through your peers, both?
I think social media.
Oh yeah, interesting.
It's such a Gen Z answer, but it's really the truth. I feel like all my success and every good thing that has happened to me has been through social media. I try so hard to not be embarrassed about that, because good things are good things. You can't be ashamed of that. But yeah, like a lot of the things, my jobs have been through people finding me online. The friends I've made in animation have mostly, I knew them online before I moved to LA, and then we finally decided to hang out. So stuff like that. It's kind of been posting my work online has really helped my just growth as an artist as a whole. So I think that's where mostly my network came from.
I think that's great to hear, though, because that's the thing where, like, I feel like for me, that was kind of how I got noticed in the US as well. It's just that for me, it was back in the days of Tumblr. But I guess, what's your favorite social media, or like the social media that you feel gets you the most noticed?
It was definitely Twitter. I was not having luck with the Instagram algorithm. So it was like Twitter was where it was happening for me, because people would see my work, and when they retweeted it, you know, others will also see it, and domino effect, basically.
That's so interesting. Yeah.
I was like on Tumblr around the time it was popular, but I just wasn't confident enough in my work at the time.
Yeah, and I feel like Tumblr was just so short-lived compared to the other social media. Like, so it's funny to hear Twitter, because I feel like for a hot second, like Instagram was the place to be, but then yeah. And like you said, the algorithm now, it's so hard. You have to be posting all the time, and slideshows and reels, and it's like very, very demanding.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Like, I don't have time for that. I can't.
How often do you post on Twitter?
I would say for my art, honestly, especially now that I'm not working full time, I kind of have a better grasp of it, where I can post maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks. I don't think I'm as consistent as a lot of other people that kind of have it down. And sometimes I will do it twice a week if it's a good week for me and I feel like I want to draw a lot, you know. Yeah.
I like to ask this question because I feel like the how often you post definitely changes the way you get noticed. Yeah.
Definitely. I like had a dry spell when I started working on Proud, because that was first industry job. I did not know what the demands were, and I was just so overwhelmed with everything, so I couldn't even find the time to make art for myself, which meant that I kind of stopped posting online. And I could tell when I did that, my whole, like, it was like my page disappeared. All my friends that I spoke to more like in a consistent way, or I felt like they could see my art, it felt like they weren't seeing it anymore. So definitely you can tell that there's an influence when you don't, you know.
That's so frustrating.
Post for a while. Yeah, I'm like,
on Twitter also? Do you feel on Twitter also?
Yeah, it was Twitter. God. Yeah, it was like I disappeared. I just felt like, I was like, maybe did I make my friends mad? I'm like, Umaimah, you did not make up to like 10 people mad, or
imaginary friends.
The algorithm.
That's why you're an artist. Right? Your imagination is so good. You made up all of your friends.
Exactly. God.
That's so crazy, because I felt like, I don't know, I don't really know as much about Twitter. I feel like I've always thought, like, I've definitely, so this is the little social media blip, everyone. We're just gonna hash it out.
You guys love it.
Yeah, you love the big tech talk. But I do think it's important to talk about, because I do think a lot of artists get their first gigs through social media, unfortunately. I do believe that so paying attention to the hashtags is a great thing on Twitter, and I've always thought Twitter worked great with like hashtags, but I didn't know that Twitter would also kind of like quote unquote punish you the same way Instagram punishes you when you don't post enough, because I've definitely felt that with Instagram. They changed their algorithm recently-ish, and it's like the more you post, the more the social media will boost you, and it's like
It's
Oh.
so rude. I'm like, come on, guys. Some of us are sad and stressed and overworked. Please.
Okay,
Just let me rest.
honesty time. Have any of you guys ever paid to have your stuff boosted?
Like, hated
Well,
posting it online.
yeah, you know how you can pay to have Instagram boost your posts and Facebook and
Oh, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
have you ever done that? Have
I'm
you ever
not
done
gonna
it?
lie. Yep, I have done it. I think I did it like twice.
Mhm.
And I think it did work. I think it did help, but I'm like, I was just thinking, the benefits do not
No, they don't.
match
No,
up.
no.
They did not
It
match
feels
up.
like it's a bunch of bots, but no one comments on your
Mhm.
post. I made a
Yep.
big I made a big mistake. This is so embarrassing. I did a boosted post, and I must have clicked something that was like never make it end. Keep going.
Oh my gosh,
And I got a
buddy.
notification. I got a notification that was like you owe like $1,000 to Facebook, and I was like,
Whoa!
what? Well, I
Oh my god.
also I was like, it hasn't been working. Like nothing happened,
Really?
and I just didn't pay it, and I filed a claim that I was like, my account was hacked. I didn't do that, and I never paid it. But
Pro tip,
Oh
pro
my
tip, everyone. Listen,
Pro tip.
pro tip. If you want to stick it to the man, just tell them your account got hacked.
Literally. Oh my god.
That's so
I would have
embarrassing.
started crying.
I did boost a couple of posts just to check because I was talking to a friend who told me that they did that and they noticed a very big difference. And I think it helps with the very small accounts when you're at the beginning, when you have like under 1K and you're trying to get to that. Because I feel like there's okay, people can debate us in the comments because I am not I'm not a social media whiz, but I feel like there's like a couple of like threshold, and you have like getting your 1K followers is kind of like, ooh, finally I'm getting some likes every time.
Yeah.
And then you kind of get the 10K is kind of like the next big step, I feel like, because then 10K you kind of unlock a couple of like things in the I don't know if it's still the case, but on Instagram you could unlock that way like the links, and you could have like more features basically. And then and then I feel it's like 50K, and then it's like, oh, like now it's like there's people like there's like a steady amount of like, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
And then I guess it goes on forever. 100, 1,000,000.
Oh my god.
But I feel like okay, when you started, let's get back on track here because I got lost. Got lost in the weeds.
Let's just keep listing numbers. I liked it.
I feel like we're done with drawing now. We're just talking about numbers. This is a counting block.
Accounting 101.
When did you feel like you were getting noticed? Approximately, like in terms of like followers, but also I don't know in your so on the timeline of your career, but also on your social media followers, I guess.
Okay.
Like,
I feel like it was around my 3rd to 4th year in SCAD, which would be like 2018, 2019. I always like to like kind of chart it out, and I call that like my peak because after I was done and so like, you know, dead and tired. But yeah, I feel like around that time was definitely when things kind of started getting better for me online. And also just in general, I felt like I was interacting more with people in the industry, so I was like, oh, okay, we're getting there. Yeah, so it probably had to do with the fact that I was taking drawing seriously, you know. Turns out that works apparently. If you draw more, you get people's attention. I'm angry about it, but yeah. So I think that was like my
do you feel like do you feel like in your experience hashtags like portfolio day or like sometimes they do like visibility hashtags, have you ever used those, and do you think they're useful?
Yeah, definitely. I think they've really been helpful. Especially I know some of the main ones that have helped me a lot were like women visibility, like
Mm-hmm.
art women visibility, drawing while black that
Mm-hmm.
Abel is running, and portfolio day too. I think portfolio day definitely might have gotten my animation work out there, because the others I mostly focused on like just my illustration work.
Mm-hmm.
But with portfolio day, I knew that my target was animation, so I kind of posted more vis dev pieces, character design pieces, all that kind of stuff. So I do think they have like helped people. And I mean, you can always tell because it feels like we kind of start seeing more smaller artists kind of join the art circles.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, okay, people are kind of getting their stuff noticed. That's nice.
That's really great. I like to hear about these different like ways to showcase art, because sometimes it can be kind of like hard to just post every day and then you feel like you plateau and nobody's like noticing your art, you know what I mean? So like trying to find these little like tips and tricks,
As you started making the transition from being in like sort of the self-study mode, the internet drawing mode, into drawing with people in person and then later jobs, what are some of the biggest differences that maybe you thought the industry or like being an artist making money would be compared to like how on the internet it looks?
That's a great
I
question.
think that is a good question. I think the first thing is I'm no longer my art director, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not ruling myself anymore. I'm not like, because if you see my art that's especially not animated related, there's a lot of pink in it. So I can be like more pink. Although with Proud, my art director did love pink and glittery things, so it worked out. But
yes.
but so there was definitely that difference in like I have to kind of consider other people's input a lot. And I don't think it was hard for me. Maybe it's the thing of like being the first child with a lot of siblings where you kind of have to accommodate so many people in your life. So at least that's what I like to think. So that was one of it. The deadlines, of course, like
Sure.
I was on my own time when I was drawing. Unfortunately, that was not the case. When you're working for a studio, you have to meet deadlines. And because I think one thing that kind of, and I'm not complaining. No way am I complaining about this. I'm really lucky to have gotten this, I moved from like college to Disney.
Oh,
so
cool.
The pressure, oh my God, the imposter syndrome, the pressure, the stress. I'm just like, I cannot mess this up, I cannot look like the amateur who just came in and doesn't know anything, and then they're like, we're gonna let this girl go, especially because visa is involved. So there was a lot of stress on my end, and it really was just me putting the stress on myself, because I would reach out to like our production coordinator, who was the person that recommended me for the job, just to like talk to her as a friend. And I'd be like, I am so stressed about this, and she's like, Umaimah, you don't need to be stressed. No one is gonna like fire you because you don't know the answer to this. Because in my head I was like, oh, I'm getting fired.
Oh no.
So fast. She's like, no, you're not gonna get fired.
Every time you have a meeting, they're like, no, we're just having like a work handout meeting for the episode. You're like, oh, it's a firing meeting. Oh no.
Oh God, every time Eastwood, like my art director, was like, hey Umaimah, are you on live to chat? I'm like, well, it's over. Let me text my parents that I'm coming back home.
Oh no. Well,
and it's like God.
No, I'd love to hear about like how did that, because the jump from working and being in school to just being at Disney all of a sudden seems like an unreal thing for anybody listening. Everyone's like wait, hold on, they just glossed over that part. She's just at Disney. Like what happened? It was like 10 years got skipped in the story. What happened?
So with Disney, oh my God, I think I still cannot wrap my head around it. And I feel like if anyone that like knew me as a child is listening to this will understand why I still cannot wrap my head around it. And I don't think I will even 20 years from now or 30 years from now. And it's because of how much I loved watching Disney as a child, you know, from the movies and the TV shows, the cartoons, like nothing was amiss for me. I was there. So, when you put something like that on a pedestal and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna go for this job, but in my head it's like, I'm definitely gonna target the smaller studios. Like I was in Atlanta at the time, so my target was not LA at all. Like I was not even looking at it. I'm like, let's be realistic. Let's start with the studios in Atlanta, and then, you know, I can kind of then move to LA and just like work with the studios here. So I was working on my senior film with my friend at the time, and we were ready to stop making the senior film, and our teacher was like, no, you guys aren't gonna not make it. You must make it. I was like, okay, because she was enjoying it. And so the stress of that was already enough, and it literally was a random evening just like this. I was back at home on my laptop, and then I saw an email like Disney. Oh, thought it was scam. I was like, why would they? You know, I was like, okay, these people like just complaining about scam or whatever. And then I open it and it's like, hey Umaimah, we're reaching out to see if you're interested in color design for like for Proud Family. So and so the team wants to talk to you. I'm like, okay, if this is real, I'm gonna reply to it and be very serious about it. And then if it's not real, at least I still, you know, like whatever, nothing lost. So I did reply to it.
Yeah, they're like, my name's Mickey Mouse and I need your social security number so we can give you this job at... I'm gonna need you to go down to the Walmart and to pick up 5 gift cards with $100 each on them, and then read me the numbers so that we can get you this job at Disney.
Oh god, I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it because it's Disney. Oh god. So yeah, I found out, and then I didn't tell anyone about it just because I was like, let's keep this close to our heart. So if it doesn't happen, at least the pain would just be like me maybe crying in my room. You know, no one else has to see that. But eventually it just like, we started talking, we spoke about like interviews, and I was gonna graduate in like a month or so. So I told them, oh, I'll be able to work under OPT, which is like the visa you get after graduation. And they're like, okay, we'll just work with you on that. And they waited until I graduated, and I started in September around the time. So I think what happened there with me getting so lucky to get on there was really, again, my friend that was on the show, Brianna Williams. She runs Black and Animated. So she was a production coordinator, and she dropped my name, and luckily enough, you know, Eastwood saw my work. I was like, okay, yeah, we can work with her. And I was lucky enough to be on the show. And yeah, just from then, we moved to, you know, the working, the stressing, the fun parts of it. Yeah.
That is so cool, though. That is so cool. I love that. Like, it really goes to show how much Bree's doing. She's doing so much for...
No, she is.
Yeah.
Yeah, she really is. I like to joke about just her being like my parent here, since I moved here alone. You know, I don't really have like any family members here, so I've just basically made her my own like mentor or / mother. I'm like, Bree, I have problems, let's talk. I was just like, okay. So she's really like a sweetheart, and I'm so lucky that I, you know, have her in my life to just be there for me.
She's awesome. She like really, like, because the Black and Animated community is so active, and there's always stuff going on, and there's like a ton of events, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
Thing. Yeah, man, and it's been going for a while now. It's like 3 years more, 4.
Yeah, and they just keep getting bigger too. You know, like I know they had a rebrand recently, so yeah, they're gonna just keep doing amazing things. And I'm happy for her that she like gets to run something that awesome.
Yeah. How is so can you tell us a little bit about what the job of a color designer is like?
Oh, sure. So, a color designer is basically an aspect of character design, I like to say, because, you know, the character designer in certain studios or in certain productions will like draw the character, draw their poses, draw the mouth charts and everything. What the color designer now does is kind of do like color passes on the characters to see what will look good in relation to like the art direction of the show or the movie itself. Well, show, because I don't think color designers are like on films really. So yeah, and the thing is, because it's such I don't even know why, but I'm guessing probably a cost situation. Some studios don't have color designers. I feel like mostly the bigger studios have color designers, you know, like Disney, Nick, Cartoon Network, Warner Brothers. There's like other studios, the character designer just does the job. So it's probably a thing of like cost and also trying to like get things done so fast. So that's basically what a color designer does. They also handle lighting, I would say, of like the characters and the props. They color props and characters. They handle lighting to make sure that if there's like a scene happening in the dark, the characters look like they fit into the scene rather than just like looking like bright blobs of like, you know, characters standing in a dark room. So
so I know that we're talking about this job, you know, and we know that it exists. When did you find out this job exists?
That's actually a good question. When did I find out?
Because a lot of people don't know about this job.
Yeah. You're right. I don't think I was looking at it as much because, you know, like I said, with Disney, they reached out to me. So I wasn't looking at color design at all. Like my mind wasn't going there. Like I was doing background painting. I was just designing characters and just coloring them, you know, because I do enjoy coloring characters. But I wasn't thinking like I'm doing this with like the job in mind. So definitely when like Disney reached out, I was like, oh, wait a minute. This is like awesome. I love colors so much. This would be like perfect for me. And that was when I found out when I was being offered the job for it. I hope they don't hear me saying this.
I hope they're listening. I that would be a good step for us as a podcast.
Yeah. Oh God. So yeah, that's when I found out about it. Cause like we spoke about color in school, you know, in a character design class, my teacher did talk about color. It was a lot of like, oh, this color means this mood and use this thing, you know? And so that was like as far as I went for color design in school. So it was mostly that I was really having fun with colors in my work in general that kind of led to me improving in my color design abilities, I guess.
Awesome.
I was gonna say I kind of wish they talk about it in school because so many people really aren't aware of it, and it just feels like it's a good way to also get into the industry, you know?
How much did you learn when you got your first job compared to school? How is like the difference between learning on the job and learning in school?
So much. I feel like I learned so much. The only difference is I was less stressed while doing it. If you know any SCAD students, you know they would tell you how like we're just walking zombies in that school. Like the workload was too much, and I still get mad when I just remember the fact that they're always like, we're training you for the real world, but the real world doesn't have like 3 classes with like the same day deadline, you know? So I really felt like that part was easier. The stress was the fact that it is the real world. Like you're making the thing that people will see. And so I think that was like the only thing that was in my mind that was like stressing me out, which I guess replaced the stress of the deadline. So not much changing. But yeah, I think that was like one of the main things that kept just going in my head. I was like, okay, I do not have to be stressing about finishing this work for this class and finishing this work for this class. It was a lot. Did not like that at all in school.
As a color designer, who do you show your work to for it to get approved?
The art director. So you are working under the art director. You guys are basically besties at work, and they will the art director would tell you basically the mood they're going for in that scene. So, you know, especially with like lighting the characters, they'll tell you if they have any like references for the characters they're showing at that moment, so that you kind of stick to their vision. You know, sometimes there's like the first episode, I think, of Proud Family, where Penny kind of dresses up in these like awesome outfits, and I remember Eastwood sending me a picture of like this space cartoon lady. I didn't grow up with it, so I never was familiar with it, but she wears like orange and blue or something. I don't know. It was like a picture of an old show, and he's like, yeah, we're going for this vibe. I was like, oh, okay. So, you know, stuff like that. They would like reference, and because it's Proud Family, there was a lot of reference to like real celebrities and real life situations too. So that's kind of,
I think
how
that's
that
an
works.
interesting conversation. Was there anything else when you started working here that were cultural differences to adapt to, like not knowing a show that, you know, they expect you to be like second nature or whatever? Was that the end of it, or was there anything else you think?
I feel like even outside of animation in general, I am still learning American references. Like, I did not grow up with like the classic movies, the classic songs, the classic like celebrities, you know? So there's a lot of times people would say something and I'm just like, I'm like, I don't know.
Googling frantically, like,
I know exactly. You get it. That's literally what it is like. And eventually, I just started saying, I do not know what you're talking about. And sometimes people are like, oh, okay. And then sometimes people are like, oh, you do not know this? And I think a perfect example, I always talk about this to like my girlfriend when we're talking about movies. Like the really popular classics like Wes Anderson movies, Pulp Fiction, you know, those types of like Oscar winning films, never knew them, never got into them, never understood them either, because I'm more of a Mean Girls kind of girl person, you know, like silly movies.
And that's even harder. That's even harder because you're not referencing a character. You're referencing a whole film style that you don't know. For like, to do that homework, you have to like go watch a bunch of films and like study what makes that style and like.
Exactly, you get it. Like we were in a screen design class and the teacher was like, we're going for like an Alfred Hitchcock. I'm like, I do not know what you're talking about. So like these really popular names, I'm still trying to like learn some of them. There are things out here that I'm like, I don't know, but y'all are happy, so I'm happy for you. So yeah, there's a lot of things that happen like that for me. And I'm pretty sure, I really believe like the show I'm talking about with the space character, I'm pretty sure if I showed you guys, there's a possibility you know them, you know. But for me, I was like, yeah, I don't know. If it's not so popular that it got broadcasted like internationally, I wouldn't know. And a lot of shows don't show everything around the world. Like there were a lot of shows that we weren't getting on Disney in Nigeria, or we weren't getting on Cartoon Network. So, you know.
Man, I'm so bad with that stuff. When someone's talking about something that they're like excited about a reference, and they're like, yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? And I'm always just like, yeah, I know what you mean. And like I never say like no, because they're so excited about the thing that they're referencing, and I don't want to ruin it, and I'll just go look it up later maybe if it's really important. But yeah.
Yep, that's pretty much it. Like
So fun. And it's so true that depending on the territory, you don't get the same things. Like,
Yeah.
for example, in France, we didn't get Adult Swim, but they would get Adult Swim in Germany. So even though they're like right next to each other, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So did you have to
That is
sneak across
true.
the border to go
Mm,
watch?
Unless you like are in these like territories that are like right on the border, and then you get a
Catch
little
the
bit of
Wi-Fi
like.
from a German building. You're like,
But also just like because they have like the regional broadcast, which is kind of interesting because there was a thing that like I was kind of talking. This is just a little tangent, French tangent, but like yeah, there's like some territories that are like bordering on other countries, then you would get a little bit of a shared broadcast, like even on TV. Yeah. I don't know if that's the same in Nigeria. Would you feel like you wouldn't be getting the same shows than like on the bordering country?
I feel like probably, especially with like West Africa. I know for sure when I was in South Africa, like the things like what they were getting was very different. And I think in general, every African can vouch for this. Like South Africa is like the only country that kind of gets as close to the Western world as possible. You know, like they get the movies faster, they get the shows faster. When people are talking about African countries, they'll talk about South Africa before everywhere else. So they kind of got they get all the good stuff. I was so jealous. But, so yeah, there's like, I can definitely tell that, you know, in other parts of the world, in other parts of Africa rather, they were like lucking out way better than we were.
It's so interesting. How long were you in South Africa?
It was a 1-year thing, and honestly did not even want to go. This was a situation of like a deal with my dad where of course I wanted him to support like my animation journey, and he's like, there's this school about leadership that I want you to go to. I'm like, oh my god, that sounds so boring. I do not want to do that.
leadership school.
Yeah, he's like, my dad's like a farmer / business guy. Like he runs like a dairy company. So, you know, he's all about the entrepreneurship and smart things and all that. And like my brain is so creatively like wired. And so we kind of clash a little bit around that. And he's like, well, art isn't safe, so try this school, and if that doesn't work out, at least you kind of learn something about like entrepreneurial leadership or whatever. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it, only because I want you to pay for my art school. So I sucked it up and I went, but I'm not gonna lie, I did have a good time. I felt like it allowed me to kind of fall in love with animation even more and kind of, you know, really carve my journey out much better than before. I was just like flailing around the place. And, you know, when I like got there, my brain was finally like focused, and I was like, oh, okay, here's the steps we need to take to actually get this. I don't like to tell him that, of course, that it helped because I was so like against it. But yeah, I think it did.
But now you can be a leader in animation. And
exactly.
So it paid off.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm like, yeah, let's use those skills.
Yeah. What are the main skills you feel like you learned at the leadership school? I'm genuinely curious.
I feel like I think the first one that always comes to my mind is like interacting with people better and public speaking. I was like shaking before I like go in front of people to talk. I would be sweating, stressing, like, you know, it was a whole thing before I just get in front of everyone. But because it was a leadership school, that meant there were a lot of projects around like fixing problems. And that meant we had to present them, some in class in front of people, some in like the auditorium in front of so many people. So that kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone. It helped with that. And I think that really helped with just how much better I am with talking with people and that made interviews way easier for me. Ironically, you know, I'm like, oh, okay, this is nice.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that. Like, do you feel like those are skills that you've been using as an animator?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And like in my head, because back around that time, it felt like every serious conversation we were supposed to have, you know, in like fixing the problems we were given in projects, it was all about like talking to the people like you knew them already. And I tried to bring that energy into interviews because I'm like, you can't just, it's very helpful to kind of come in and just be comfortable with everyone. I think that's something they might also be looking for in someone that they want to work with, you know. So I try my best to not come in and just be like professional, answer 2 questions. Like, you have to be professional, of course, but not like so stoic and you know, just.
That is so interesting, and that is so true, because Shauna and I recently interviewed a lot of people for a producer position, and so it was the very first time, at least for me, that I was in an interviewer position. So that was the first time in my life that I was like looking at a lot of people that were interviewing for a position that I was offering. And what you're saying is so true. I was like, we were like, oh, someone who is comfortable and jokes around but still is professional is like so much more of a guest that shines in an interview. And I was just like,
because you're also thinking about like how fun is it going to be to be in the office, and you know, we're not in an office, but how fun would it be to be in the office in the cubicle next to this person? Like, would it be fun to work with them, you know?
Yeah. So I think that's like, and I try to give that advice a lot when talking to like people about stuff like that. I'm like, guys, make interviews a little bit more casual for yourself. I feel like that goes a long way. I think that also helps reduce the stress for me with interviews, and that just makes them like go much more smoother. And I'm like, oh, okay, that was fun.
Well, you're doing a great job so far. I think that you're being interviewed very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's so funny. Oh man, that's so cool though. Have you ever told your dad that the business leadership school was good in the end?
Never. It's not gonna happen. Maybe one day when he's older and I'm older.
You don't want to give him that win.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be like, hey Dad, by the way, you know, that school really did help. But yeah, I'm like, so if not, he'll just feel like, okay, now I can give my 2 cents to everything. I cannot let him have that much power at the moment.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. That's really cool though. Like, how often do you guys keep in touch? Do you like often go back home?
He actually literally, they just left like last week. Him and my mom came over to visit, since I have not been able to like leave, you know, like when your visa expires, if you leave, you kind of can't come back until you renew it, but you're allowed to stay in the country as long as you maintain like a certain type of visa, in my case, the school. So they just like, they were like, we're gonna come. I was like, okay. And they came over. We, you know, saw the whole of LA and had our fun and just enjoyed not spending my own money for a little bit. Like, yeah, parents are always ready to like.
What did they think of LA? I mean, there's good things about LA, but there's a lot of bad things about LA. So
no, the thing is, there is good things about LA. My parents' issue is not LA. My parents' issue is America.
Okay,
I feel like you should understand that they are. Also, I was brought up Muslim, so they're Muslims. They're Muslims. They're Nigerian, and they're also from like the culture that I'm specifically from, Hausa. So like, America is like stressful for them, you know. They're not used to all the things. I'm like, y'all do not have to come, you can just stay at home. But at the same time, you know, in general, like the lifestyle here is generally better than in Nigeria. So this is like them coming, enjoying the lifestyle a little bit, and then going back home.
I got you.
And so, yeah, there will be like things like my mom's number one complaint this recent visit is cold drinks. I was like,
Wait, like not liking cold drinks?
Yeah, she was like, why are they putting so much ice in my drink? I'm like, Mom, because it's a cold drink. And she's like, why would they always put ice? And she complained each time. And I was like, why are you still being shocked at this? Like, it has happened 3 times now. Can we move on?
They're sabotaging me with all this ice. Do they think I'm a polar bear? What is going on?
Like, yeah, and my dad too, the same thing. The cold, his was also cold drinks and just like the cold temperature. They stayed in a hotel, so I kind of went over to stay with them like every day to just like hang out with them. And I walked into the room, and I'm telling you, I shit you not, I'm pretty sure it was like close to 80 degrees. I was like, why is it hot in here? I immediately like started freaking out. I'm like, I am not staying here with you guys. And I had to like come to a compromise of increasing the temperature. I'm like, Dad, it's not humanly possible to exist in this like temperature right now. And like they're from a, literally like the equator. So they're used to like hot climate, and I get it, but I can't.
Yeah, do they think you're weak now because you're like, no, I want to be in air conditioning. I want to, I want ice in my drink.
They think I'm weak in so many ways. Like my spice tolerance has gone down. I do not like spicy stuff as much. Like my mom was making me like home food when she came over, and I was like over her shoulder, just like gauging the amount of habanero pepper she was putting in it. And I was like, Mom, that's enough. She's like, it's not even that spicy. It was spicy at the end of the day. And she's like, it's not even that spicy. So they think I'm weak on that. They also think I'm weak on like my lactose intolerance, because I don't think it was that bad at home, but when I came here, like, yeah. So they're like, then they'll like start, in the language, like, she's Americanized. I'm like, okay, whatever. Y'all paid for me to be here. You cannot complain. So yeah, it's always an entertaining time when they come over.
I mean, it sounds like you have to train for your parents to visit. Like I gotta do like push-ups and like sit in the sauna, and I gotta like eat a bunch of peppers. Like you have to run the gauntlet to train yourself.
It's like you have heard all the conversation with my friends and like my girlfriend. I'm like, okay, my parents are coming this week, baby. So let's start mentally preparing. I literally have to mentally prepare, because there's like so many things I have to be like, you guys just have to accept this. That's how it is here. Can we move on? Can we not have this conversation 5 times about the cold water? So yeah, it is a little bit of like a workout session. And yeah, when you have parents from such a different culture and you've kind of come out of that culture, there can be all these, like things that kind of separate you guys, and you kind of have to relearn to coexist with each other again.
Yeah, that's so true. I feel like going from a culture to another and like back and forth between countries, there's always this little thing where you're like, well, I'm not entirely from this place, but I'm not entirely from here either anymore. It's kind of interesting. It's a very interesting way to be.
Yeah. And the thing is, sorry.
No, that was the end of my thought.
And the thing is, I don't think they get it either, because again, that the culture is so black and white, right? Like to them, I can't be from Nigeria and kind of be a little bit like American in my lifestyle, so it's like, pick one. And I'm like, no, it's not black and white. So they can't wrap their head around it, which also creates like the chaos. Even makes it even more chaotic.
Have you ever thought of pitching a show or like creating your own kind of like story?
I have. honestly. I feel like it's a rite of passage at this point, you know. The thing is, I think what is happening with me in the moment is I'm trying to look inwards around that, and I'm like, do I actually want to do that, or am I doing it because it feels like that's the expectation for everyone that works in animation? Because I feel like if there's anything I would want to work on or pitch, it will be more like in the publishing side, you know, like picture books, graphic novels. I feel like those are the things that would actually bring me joy. With animation, I kind of just want to art direct. Like, I want to be an art director to to like shows, and then eventually, hopefully, a feature film. But I don't think I see myself being like a showrunner. Like, that's the truth. And it did take a while for me to just accept that, because I was like, no, you have to want to create a show. And it's so cool that people want to, because that means I get more shows to watch. You know, but yeah, it turns out it's just like not for me. I love the art part of it so much. I want to create the world, you know, so that's way more fun for me.
Well, I love how you say just an art director, like that's anything to sneeze at. That's like a really impressive position. There's nothing wrong with wanting to do that and not this other complete whole other skill set that you haven't even trained that much in, you know?
Yeah. Like, I love story, you know, in stuff, but I've noticed that I can watch a really bad thing if it looks gorgeous. Like, you know how like story is king? In my head, design is king. Like, I would watch something horrible because it looks pretty. So that's kind of, so I'm like, Umaimah, you cannot go with that mindset in creating content. So, you know, I think I would love being an art director. It really would be fun. And just from working on Proud too, they've kind of sometimes Eastwood has like given me like lineup of characters before he even has an idea of what their colors should be, and I like basically create the colors for those lineup. And I feel so good when that happens, because I feel like, oh yeah, I'm like in charge of this look, you know, for the characters. So I know I would like really enjoy it when it eventually happens, because I really have my eyes, like my sights set on it.
That's really cool. I love that. I love having an answer like this too, because I do feel like it's like you said, what you said about like, oh, it's expected that, you know, everybody should be pitching and all of that stuff. And then, yeah, it's hard to know what you really want when there's so many expectations out there.
Yeah,
for people.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be here to make art for people pitching too. So, you know, in connection, I'm finding my way in there at the end of the day. So
I was thinking of maybe going into some questions from our patrons.
Okay.
From our patron Mallard, new patron, hello. What would you say is the hardest part of switching between prop color and character design on a job? Are there any rules or ways of working that apply to one job title but not the other?
I think especially while I was doing color for Proud, I moved to props, you know, like I was doing color design for them, and then when I moved to LA, they were like, oh, actually we want to like move you to props, do you want to do that? I was like, oh yeah, that would be awesome. So of course there's like the learning curve in knowing how to do like the Photoshop, you know, setup, and just knowing how everything is supposed to look versus using color. I think that was the hardest part for me. I think because color is already such a huge part of the way I work in general, just on my own. I hardly ever post sketches, or if I do, there will be color there. So it was never, it didn't feel like I was turning off a part of my brain and turning on another part of my brain to like work on props at all. So I didn't find it as hard as much. Character design, on the other hand, I feel like it's so much more different for me versus like props, because it almost feels like any little mistake is so obvious on a character, you know, because it's like you have to consider anatomy a lot when like working on them. So there was definitely a lot of stress around that, where I felt like with props, I was just like painting and smiling, and then with characters, it's like, oh my god, this one eye is too close to the nose or something like that. So definitely like there's more intention I felt with drawing characters versus drawing props for me.
That's a great answer. That's really, I like how you describe it. It is also very clear, kind of the thought process. From our patron Joe Benson. Hi Joe. Which Proud Family character was your favorite to draw, and which was your least?
Which was my favorite? Oh, I know the favorite for sure. There's this character called Peaches, and she is like, in the cowboy episode, there's like these two-parter episodes. That's kind of where we ended season 1 and started season 2. So she's like a really feminine cowgirl. And the minute I saw her sketches, like while we were doing reviews in, you know, in like the meeting or whatever, and the minute I saw her sketches, they have not even cleaned her up yet. They have not chosen her final colors. I texted like my art director. I was like, Eastwood, I want to color her. Please, 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 please give me this character. And like the minute he gave it to me, I mean, the minute I saw her, I already knew the colors in my head. Like I've been doing these like Barbie redraws, but making them like black version of Barbie and giving them this like strawberry blonde hair and pink dresses. So in my head, I was like, that's her color palette and that's what we're gonna go for. And you know, you're supposed to give variations when you like color design something, and then the art director would choose. So I made sure to make the other variations not as good.
Oh my god, that's so funny, because all these things are things that I don't think people know that exist. Like being able to request of your director or your art director, hey, I have an idea for this sequence or this character or this prop. Can I be the one that colors it? And that is something that happens with storyboard scenes, that happens with characters, but also this other thing where like sometimes you try to work a little magic to, like, if you love a design, like how can I convince these guys to
I was like, oh god, please let him not like the bad ones, and thank god he didn't. So they went with like the color I was really excited for. And honestly, I felt like even if I did make them as good, Eastwood is such a like open art director that if I was like, Eastwood, I love this one, here's the reason why I love it. Like, I think I've done that with a character that I colored her in certain colors, and I told him why I think this is better, and he's like, oh, okay, let's go with it. So, you know, like, that's the awesome part. If you do have like a very open art director, they're very okay listening to you. Like, it's not all the time that they think like their word is the end of it, you know? Yeah. So I think she was my favorite character to color for sure.
That's awesome.
I think the least favorite, I can't pick one specifically, but any character that was wearing like plaid or like had like texture.
I mean, that's not fun to animate either. That's just not fun in an animated show. I don't I don't like it. Yeah.
Any character that had like texture or plaid, because I was trying so hard to like make sure the texture doesn't like end up looking weird in the turn, and could also translate well when animating. And of course the plaid, who's gonna like pick coloring plaid? No one, I don't think so. So I can't even pick a particular character, but I know there's some with like plaid. So if y'all see any character with plaid, I did not like coloring them. That's
just picture you frowning at this plaid.
Yeah. Like,
Did you frown at it when you see it in the store too? You're like, oh, my enemy.
I was like, oh god, I remember you. We meet again.
Flashbacks, yeah.
Oh god.
So funny. Yeah, I like that that you said that you reached out to ask for an assignment. I think that's really cool. And also, like, how long did it take for you to feel comfortable telling your art director, like reaching out in that way to your art director?
Let's see, when did I think I started, that's because that was my first time doing that.
Oh.
And that was like,
Okay.
I think 4, maybe 5 months into the job, so it was a while, but the love I had for the character was so much more than my fear. I think I like blacked out and I asked and it happened. Like, I don't think I even remember how directly the conversation went. It was just like I was so excited to like color her that I was the anxiety like flew out the window. So I'm pretty sure he still would have been open to it even if it was like earlier than 5 months or so. But yeah, I think that was when, I think that the moment I did ask him and I saw that he was open to it, that was when my body, like my nervous system was like, okay, this is a safe space. You can like recommend things, you can try things out. And from then I kind of became more comfortable with voicing my opinions on stuff. Yeah. And it was always welcome, honestly. Such an amazing crew to work with.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool.
Thanks.
Well, I guess that answers the question from our patron Kitty Fries, who asked, what is a design you're very proud of?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But kind of does. I did do like prop design, so I think there was a wheelchair that I designed for Sugar Mama. There's an episode where she broke her leg, and I have ran away from drawing like things like that, like cars, wheelchairs, tech stuff. I'm always like, I do not want to draw them because that's like so much perspective and I'm scared. But honestly, when I drew it, I was like, oh my God, you're getting it.
Oh shit.
You're getting it.
Nice.
Oh,
okay,
shit.
everybody
like,
draw wheelchairs now. Oh, no.
Okay, exactly.
No, I'm joking.
It was like, I was like, oh my God, okay, this isn't so bad. And even the reception I got from like the art director was enough for me to feel like, okay, you can do it. So I'm proud of it, and not necessarily because it's like, oh, it's amazing, but because I like did it. I was so scared of like drawing cars and just any like basically mode of transportation. I don't know, but yeah, stuff like that. And I didn't die, turns out, doing that. So I'm really proud of that.
That's so funny. I feel like that's a very real thing I hear from props designers. They're like, oh, not the car again.
Yeah. Perspective.
That's so funny. From our patron, Katie, I like this question. What has been the best routine and exercise that you think has helped you get to where you are today?
I'm guessing by exercise?
Like drawing.
Oh, okay.
Physical excize, doing push-ups
Yeah.
while you're eating peppers in a hot room,
like,
training for your parents.
I thought she meant physical. I'm like, oh God, wrong person, man. Wrong person to ask. But I do think the thing that has like helped me the most has definitely been like my viz dev work. I think when practicing environment, like painting environments and like dealing with lighting and, painting a room or stuff like that, I'm basically tackling every aspect of it. I'm doing props, I'm doing colors, I'm like dealing with lighting. It's like everything in one. So I find that every once in a while, I'm like, okay, we've been drawing too much fun pink stuff, Umaimah. Let's draw a room now, so just to like warm up again and like learn. So I think that's been like the best thing that has worked for me in practicing my work.
Like giving yourself a little challenge every once in a while.
Especially perspective. In case it's not obvious, I have problems with it. I'm like, no.
Okay, here, draw a plaid wheelchair in fisheye perspective. No.
Fish eye, the plaid and fish eye. It's also like so crazy.
Oh my God, I was just start crying for you guys. I'm like, oh God.
That sounds like an exercise from school. I feel like a teacher would do that.
they would do that. They would do that because, they just like seeing us suffer.
Yeah. Just like, all right, everybody, what are your pet peeves? What are the things you hate drawing? Okay, now you have to draw
Do
those
that.
things 1,000 times until you're expert at them. That is something that they
Right.
would do in art school.
And we have a couple of questions from Instagram from Matt Jake in the Flannel. What is a production tip you wish you would have known when you first got studio work?
Good question. Let's see. I think I wish I knew that I could talk to the production coordinators about not having something done on time. Yeah, definitely. I felt like I was I was so worried that if I didn't have this thing in time, the usual, I'm gonna get fired fear. But turns out if you do communicate with like the production coordinators and you're like, I feel like I might not get this done on time, they can either like share the work out or prepare for like the delay. So it's very helpful to, be honest with yourself around that rather than just being quiet and then things kind of start getting messed up in the future. So I think, that was something I wish that I knew. And I think the only reason that I did find out about it was like, I was like part of the people that was asked to like help with someone's, share because they were kind of getting sick, I think, at the time. So I was like, oh, okay, we can do this, I guess. It's like not that deep. Everything is more dramatic in our heads than it is in real life. Yep.
Very true. That's a great answer. That's a fun one from at Winter Space. It's inter.space, but it's a one instead of an I. What's been your favorite thing about working in the industry?
I want to say the friends I've made is definitely like up there. I feel like I don't think I like had as much like art friends growing up, like I didn't have friends that were artistically focused like that, and it kind of makes you a little bit of the oddball. I've found, in high school, and especially in like a place that like art isn't really as encouraged or, supported as much. So I always say it like, it brings me so much joy that I'm around people now that I can be like, oh my God, it's like that one episode of Owl House and they'll get it. No one is looking at me with like a question mark on top of their head. It felt like that was the case for me growing up a lot. I'll like reference something and it's probably just my sisters that know what I'm talking about. So I really love that. I have like a community of people that I just feel like I vibe with. And another part of it is definitely just how much like being in the industry inspires me. I think with my art, it pushes me to like explore, be true to myself with my art. Like I have been feeling a little down about it, and we watched Spider-Verse recently, and that lit a fire under my ass, which I feel like is the same for everyone. Which, by the way, congrats V on working on such an awesome show. I like saw your name and I was like, I know her.
It was me.
So it's like amazing, I love getting to see stuff like that just has you so excited. You're like, oh yes, I can do this.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I made the whole movie myself, by the way.
I knew it.
That's why my name is first in the.
No, I could tell. I knew it.
But people say that's so funny. I'm like, no, it's just alphabetical. There's no hierarchy of any kind.
Oh right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, having to explain that to like people that are in the industry.
That's so funny. Yeah, it's that. I agree. I think the community is great. I feel like it does keep you inspired, and I do feel like having a community of artists around you when you're like trying to improve your art and everything, it's really something that is so valuable because it keeps you motivated. It keeps you kind of like also in check with your goals and stuff. I feel like that's something from people who are like self-taught was very common. Like they would say like, oh, I found a community online that I joined, so I would just stay excited. So
Yeah.
that's really cool. Oh yeah, we forgot to talk about Summer Camp Island. So we have a YouTube question from at Dante Ante 8823. Who is your favorite loud sister? I think they meant proud. And and the favorite Summer Camp Island girl.
My favorite proud, I think she's such a mean person. La Cienega. She's so mean. She's like my favorite. Wait, by sister, do they mean like the villain? The three evil villains, or
I think it can be any. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think I have to go with like La Cienega. She is an only child though, so with like in the main cast, Penny is she does have a sister, but we don't like focus on her so much. So yeah, I would say Penny for like the main cast, and if they're just like talking about, you know, the friend group, it has to be La Cienega. I know she's mean, so I have to apologize for liking her, but she loves like pink sparkly stuff, so I'm biased. I'm sorry.
We can like mean characters without being mean ourselves. It's okay.
You're right.
I love that you have this very on brand. You definitely have your brand.
Right? I was like, morality or cuteness. You know?
Are you excited for the Barbie movie to come out?
Oh, yes. Yes, I'm already like online. My girlfriend doesn't like pink. Of course, she doesn't wear it. At least, like, she doesn't hate it, but she doesn't wear it. Mm-hmm. But I'm like looking for pink outfits because she doesn't have a choice, and I cannot wait for that movie. Oh my! It's gonna be like my personality probably for the rest of the year after it comes out. Everyone's gonna be sick of me, and I'm gonna have fun.
I can't wait. I can't wait for that movie. Oh my gosh, it looks so fun.
It looks so amazing.
You kind of like touched on it a tiny little bit, but we like to ask our guests about their creative block. Do you feel a creative block? And if you do, what does it feel like? And how do you deal with it?
Yes, I definitely do. And I think like I've noticed the pattern on like when it does happen, which I think is progress. I think kind of knowing when like to expect it helps me go through it better and also come out of it, you know, better. So I have noticed that it mostly happens when I do have, you know, either a full-time job or I have a freelance job that's like taking my full hours basically. And it starts affecting how much I think about my work, and it starts affecting just my work outside of the job itself. You know, I'm not able to think of anything fun or anything cool to draw, which sucks because I love doing that for myself. And that it's like a domino effect. Like the exhaustion leads to the creative block. The creative block makes me sad because I love drawing, you know. So yeah, I do battle like with that, and I'm trying now to basically find a better way to like work and at the same time have time to make my own stuff. And so far my strategy has just been waiting it out. I'm like, okay, since thank God it's like happening while I'm working, it doesn't end up like affecting my work as much because my work is very related to like an art director, like what they're telling me to do. So I'm able to kind of just try to get in their head based off like their mood board or, you know, their color script and just go off what they want. I would say I almost become like an art zombie. At that time, I'm just taking what they want. I'm like, well, we're putting it down. But I'm sure like any work that I make at that time would definitely not be as good as like when I'm not dealing with creative block.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I do feel like it's good sometimes to have a little task, like you said, like you were talking about, like your art director giving you an assignment, because then it's like, you know that you're still able to do things. There's like a little bit of relief there.
Yeah. I don't think I've like dealt with art block in relation to like work yet, and maybe we're gonna get there because every day it's a new thing to learn. But yeah, because I haven't like the character design stuff that I've done, I haven't done like full-time proper character design work, so I feel like that would be where if it's gonna hit me anywhere, that would be where it'll hit me, because it feels like there's a lot of like creative thinking when it comes to character design. With props, I'm mostly going off real life, you know. So that isn't hard. And with color design, I'm going off like, again, a color script, so that doesn't make it as hard.
Do you feel like you developed an art regimen when you were just drawing things on your own, and that's helped you in any way for your deadlines and for coming up with things on a regular basis now? Because in general, you had talked about posting a certain amount on social media and thinking about that kind of stuff a lot.
I think it definitely, there's like a phase, a phase at SCAD. It was when I first got my iPad, and I first bought Procreate. It was like monster, like the energy drink was like pumping through my veins. I was like, even my friend Justin was like, Umaimah, do you do anything for fun? Because I was just so excited to like have something I could carry around with me to draw. So I was drawing every day, just constantly. And I do not know how I didn't get burnt out then. I was just like, the excitement, the like adrenaline from the excitement was so much. I was just like, yeah, we're gonna keep going. So I think kind of just knowing that I could do that at that time, and at that time was also when I was growing my social media, you know, so it did help. Like it helped with that, because I was giving people content. And so in my head it's like, you did it that one time, I think you can, if you can handle like that situation where you were just like feeding the algorithm, you can feed the studios what they want. And
the algorithm was your art director.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that really like helped me, I think, with like just getting my stuff done. And yeah, definitely. I think I didn't struggle with deadlines as much as I thought I would. And I don't know what's gonna be the situation if I do go back into like a full-time job now that I've kind of gone through the stress of visas and, you know, I'm exhausted. But I really hope that it wouldn't be a problem for me.
Yeah, that's so funny. Like the whole, I do feel like these challenges, I think something like really clicked for me when I did Inktober really the first time. So it was Inktober 2014, and I actually did it every day, and I was like, I'm going to do an actual ink piece. And then at the end of the month, when you've actually did it, you're like, wow, I can do this. I can draw every day and do these big things, you know. And I think it's kind of like reminds me of how you're talking about when you had your iPad, and then you're like, yeah, I could draw every day.
You're building up that tolerance, like that, like
Yeah.
you know, at first it's exhausting to do a whole drawing in a day. And then it's not such a big deal once you've done it 5 days in a row. And then
and then you just end up doodling on everything that you can get a pencil on.
yeah, exactly.
That was super fun. That was a super fun interview. I am on my quest of finding a segue, and I have none today. So to segue into the end of the
it sounds like V has to do some training, doing push-ups eating some peppers and a sauna in order to learn how to properly segue to the end of our interview show.
I could use the everyday segue training, end of the episode training. So with this little blurb, that's the end of this creative block.
I love it.
Umaimah, thanks for being our guest and sharing your story.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. This was really, really fun. I love it.
And also, I just want to give a shout out to our listeners. Follow us on Twitter at CRTVBlock, where we ask for drawing prompts and questions to ask our guests. Huge thanks to our editor Clements for editing the podcast and Marco for helping us produce the show.
If you love our show, then support us on Patreon. Becoming a patron gets you early access to interviews as well as bonus episode. We're working on it. Don't worry, it's gonna be great real soon. But you know, if you also want to support us, but you don't have a ton of money, you can just like, subscribe, leave a comment. All of that goes a super long way. We really appreciate you interacting with our episodes. Y'all are absolutely amazing. Click the link in the description of this episode for Umaimah's social media, the Patreon, the everything. I've been your host, V.
And I was Sean. Keep being creative, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye!